You wake up before dawn, pulse already restless, mind tallying yesterday's mistakes and tomorrow's unpaid bills. There's a weight behind your ribs, a sort of private, silent fatigue no coffee can dissolve. Maybe you've spent decades climbing, only to find the view at the top alarmingly empty. Your children judge your silences, or your spouse seems a world apart in the same living room. On good days, those old dreams flicker like distant headlights. On the harder mornings, you wonder if you're merely keeping life from slipping backward, not moving forward at all. Who will you be when the chase slows and the titles fade? What do you have when certainty runs dry and every role you ever played, provider, partner, achiever, feels suddenly threadbare? In a world that worships busyness and noise, can you meet your own gaze in the stillness? And if so, what will you find? Just more relentless questions, or something deeper, truer, quietly, waiting to be discovered? 1. Control your mind, or let it control you. Every adult, at some point, experiences the unsettling crisis of feeling hijacked by their own mind. Whether in a boardroom, at a crowded kitchen table, or scrolling through a cascade of late-night messages, each person faces a silent adversary, their own thoughts. The barrage of internal dialogue is relentless-souled regrets, private shame, sudden anxieties, silent doubts that surface when you least expect them. In these moments, the mind becomes more tyrant than ally, pushing us to snap at spouses, withdraw from friends, or make hasty decisions we later regret. To a casual observer, it may seem our reactions are provoked solely by circumstance, a sharp comment in a meeting, a partner's subtle critique in front of guests, a social media post that stings. Yet Stoic philosophy asks a deeper question: who exactly is in control, the mind or you? Epictetus once said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." His warning feels as fresh in our age of constant connectivity as it did in the ancient marketplace. A single scenario public criticism illuminates the trap. A comfortable evening, voices mingling over shared memories, is disrupted by an unexpected slight. Your pulse quickens. Instinct urges either a flustered defense or an icy withdrawal. It is as if some private switch is thrown, robbing you of agency. Yet, pause for a breath. That jolt of anger or humiliation is not your essence but your mind's impulsive defense. The other person's opinion cannot wound your worth unless you grant it that power. Marcus Aurelius faced greater crises than most will ever know, yet reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This practice-excellent observation, the private pause, gives every adult the ability to master rather than be mastered. The Stoics advise, recognize the anger, the hurt, but do not act from them. Notice, acknowledge, let the heat pass. No one says this is simple, especially in a culture that prizes quick wit, public retort, and emotional authenticity. Yet it is the quiet, disciplined inner space that separates wisdom from reflex. Consider the driver who cuts you off as you leave for a morning filled with deadlines, or the child's sharp words at the end of an exhausting day. Do you allow the mind's reflex frustration, resentment to dictate your response? Or do you remember, as Seneca advises, that anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it? Cultivating Stoic self-command happens first in the small, silent, private moments. It grows each time you choose to interpret events rationally rather than emotionally. This is not a call to suppress feelings or to mask pain with a brittle smile. Instead, it is the promise of a freer life, one less encumbered by private battles and impulsive reactions. The silent mastery of the self is not emotional sterility, but the doorway to genuine freedom. It means choosing, again and again, to respond rather than react. Because if you do not control your mind, it will control you, and the cost of that surrender is, ultimately, far too high. 2. Anger doesn't solve problems. Anger, that silent flash behind clenched jaws and balled fists, is as old as humanity itself. It masquerades as a private shield against disrespect or injustice, whispering that if we just raise our voice or double down, we can reclaim lost ground. Yet, when allowed to dictate our actions, anger rarely achieves what it promises. More often, it leaves us diminished, our problems compounded. Consider the rush of morning traffic. The dashboard clock ticks forward. A worn song plays softly in the background. Suddenly, a car swerves in front of you, ignoring all civility. Your pulse surges, hands tense on the wheel, and an internal chorus begins. How dare they? Do they think your time, your safety matters less? In that split second, the urge is overwhelming to blare the horn, tailgate, or shout frustration into the private, silent interior of your vehicle. But all these reactions ask for a toll greater than the offense. Your peace, your clarity, your ability to respond as the person you want to be. Stoic philosophy does not deny the reality of anger. Every great mind from Seneca to Marcus Aurelius acknowledged its pull. But wisdom lies in follows. Seneca observed, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." The world offers countless slights at work, at home, in the digital expanse of social commentary. We cannot control who cuts us off, who fails to give credit, who lashes out when they're hurting. But our response remains our own, the one arena where true freedom persists. Many tell themselves that venting anger is cathartic, that to stay silent is to surrender. Yet the strongest people in the room are often the least reactive. To hold your tongue, to meet a provocation with a level gaze or measured breath, is not weakness. It is mastery, an assertion of direction over the tempest within. Recent scientific research echoes the Stoics. Unchecked anger clouds judgment, undermines relationships, and leads to outcomes we later regret. What feels like power in the moment dissolves into private remorse and sometimes public regret. Picture a tense conversation at work. Direct report fails to meet a deadline, or a colleague criticizes your contribution in front of others. The easy path is retaliation. The harder one, the higher one, is to pause. Let the initial heat pass. Address what needs to be addressed, but do so after the private wave of anger has subsided. This self-restraint does not negate justice, it sharpens it. By refusing to let rage dictate your actions, you protect your ability to solve the real problem. You remain sturdy, even as those around you falter. Anger, then, should not be smothered or ignored. It is a signaler clue that a boundary has been crossed, a value threatened, an expectation unmet. Your task is to trace the signal to its source, then choose a response that matches your deepest convictions, not just your first, most primal urge. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Epictetus once taught. That space between event and reaction is where your power lives, a private space, silent to the world, but decisive for your life's direction. Calm is not passive surrender, but the hallmark of true strength. In a storm, the tree with deep roots stands tall. In the currents of daily life, a traffic jam, a failed promise, unkind words, the person who remains composed wields a power that anger can never match. Ask yourself, Does a heated retort do more than momentarily satisfy the ego? Or would a quiet, deliberate response anchor you in the kind of character you aspire to embody? To choose calm over rage is not to suppress emotion but to harness it, to root it toward constructive ends. In this private inner work, you become a stronger, freer, personable to weather what the world brings without losing yourself to the storm. And as you grow in this discipline, you will discover the true answer to a timeless question: why is silence, not noise, the fiercest form of strength? That lesson, deeper and more profound, awaits in the next turning of our journey. 3. Calmness is not weakness, it's strength. In the visible arenas of modern life, conference rooms, family tables, social networks, the world often crowns those who shout the loudest or push the hardest. The loud voice in a business meeting commands attention. The unyielding debater seems to claim the battlefield of opinion. American culture, shaped by tales of conquest and competition, can confuse volume for authority and aggression for leadership. Amid this, the silent and private power of calmness can be mistaken for absence, even for weakness. But those who have lived enough to know the undercurrents of life understand. Enduring strength is not explosive. It is measured, steadfast, and restrained. Consider a tense boardroom discussion. A colleague, perhaps threatened by your ideas or blinded by their own frustration, publicly challenges your viewpoint with a harsh accusation. For a moment, the room is silent, every eye watching the private drama unfolding. The urge to snap back rises like a wave, to justify, to match tone for tone, to regain terrain through force. Had you met outrage with outrage, the discussion would quickly spiral. Words would become weapons. Reputations might be wounded in front of those whose opinions shape your professional fate. No one truly wins. Solutions drown in hostility, and relationships suffer private injuries that linger. Yet if you pause, breathe, and respond with measured calmness, something different happens. The room remains silent this time, not from tension, but from quiet respect. Your response radiates steadiness, signaling not surrender but mastery. Reason is heard above the noise. In a world addicted to reaction, those who can control their own emotions set the tone for everyone else. Historical examples offer rich lessons here. Mahatma Gandhi, facing the vast might of British colonial power, resisted with profound calm. He endured threats, imprisonment, and brutal treatment without ever returning violence for violence. The Salt March, an unarmed, silent procession over hundreds of kilometers, became a symbol of private discipline rippling outward, undermining an empire not through battle, but through self-mastery. Gandhi's composure turned private control into public transformation. His opponent, armed and loud, was ultimately disarmed by a man who would not let them disturb his inner peace. In daily American life, strength is often presumed to be visible, but true power, as the Stoics taught, dwells within. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Every day offers an opportunity to prove not to others, but to ourselves, that the greatest victories are private and silent one where nobody sees, in our ability to govern our own reactions. Those who lose their temper easily, who use threats or volume to claim space, are not as strong as they appear. Their outbursts reveal a lack of interior order or turbulence that anyone watching can sense. They become predictable, easily manipulated by circumstance or other people's provocations. But to remain silent and private with your emotions, to choose your response rather than be driven by it, is an exercise in self-determination. Picture the manager who, in the face of unfair criticism, answers with dignity and restraint. or the parent who models composure for a child in the chaos of a tantrum. These moments are not passivity. They are about not letting the outside world dictate your private state. To respond with calmness is to claim sovereignty over yourself. Anyone can hold the helm when the sea is calm, Publilius Cyrus once remarked. But when storms come, and they always do, true strength reveals itself in the silent, private steadiness with which we meet them. This is not the absence of feeling, nor the denial of injustice. It is the disciplined, daily practice of responding, not reacting. Self-control, anchored in principles, is the greatest power you can wield. Once you master yourself, the storms outside no longer hold sway. Let this conviction take root. The next time challenge arises, do not hasten to prove your might with words or rage. Instead, let your restraint speak, your calm become your armor. For in the silent mastery of your own responses lies an unshakable strength, the kind only you can give yourself, and the kind no one can ever take away. 4. Life is unfair, but that doesn't matter. Life seldom follows a script of fairness. Across boardrooms, classrooms, and living rooms, people witness outcomes that defy logic or justice. A dedicated employee gives their best year after year, yet the promotion goes to someone with half their devotion and none of their private sacrifices. A neighbor, trusted and kind, turns and betrays confidence the moment it serves them. Hard work doesn't always yield reward. Virtue does not always receive applause. The silent, private ache of injustice is a constant companion in adult life. Yet the core wisdom of Stoicism teaches a bracing truth. Injustice is not personal. It is not a vendetta against you, but simply the nature of existence, a fact of the human condition. The world, vast and indifferent, will not contort itself to anyone's sense of fairness. It is not things that upset us, wrote Epictetus, but our judgments about things. When you internalize this, injustice loses its sting. It becomes another elementsun, rain or wind, unmoved by our preferences. We cannot command the weather, but we can always command ourselves. There are stories that bring this philosophy to life in vivid relief. Consider Nick Vujicic, the speaker, known around the world for his radiant resilience. Born in Australia with tetra amelia syndrome, Nick entered the world without arms or legs. Most would see such a fate as unthinkable, a misfortune so deep it could drown a person in bitterness or withdrawal. His early years were filled with silent struggles, private moments of despair, where even the basic tasks of life seemed impossible. He contemplated suicide, weighed down by the injustice of his circumstance. Yet, in the silence of his darkest moments, Nick chose another path. If he could not change the world, he would change his relationship to it. Through relentless practice and indomitable will, Nick learned to brush his teeth, to type, to swim, even to play soccer using only his torso and a few toes at his hip. More than learning to survive, he chose to embrace life. Today, he travels the globe, sharing a message not of complaint, but of agency and hope. His story illustrates a quintessential Stoic lesson. Our circumstances do not dictate our fate, our responses do. This attitude is not heroic only in the most extreme cases. Everyday life is laced with smaller injustices, a rejected application, an undeserved rebuke from a friend, a missed opportunity because of forces beyond your control. Each time resentment boils up, you face a silent choice. To let unfairness make you bitter, or to meet it with privacy, courage, and self-discipline. If life's scales were balanced, there would be no need for philosophy. The Stoics understood that misfortune, far from being unusual, is the common thread of our lives. Marcus Aurelius, himself emperor surrounded by privilege, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You cannot bend the world, but you can forge yourself." This means untangling your well-being from outcomes and anchoring it instead in effort, virtue, and self-command. Ask yourself, next time, unfairness rouses indignation. Will protest or complaint shift anything, or merely extend your suffering? Does anger right a wrong, or does it simply erode your inner serenity? Do not waste what remains of your life in thoughts about others, Marcus warned, when you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility. In other words, direct your focus on what is within your private domain, your skills, your emotions, your next step. The choice is always yours, to let the silent unfairness of the world defeat your spirit, or to meet it with resilient, private conviction. Those who master this mindset transcend victimhood. Life's unfairness becomes not a curse, but a crucible for strength and character. The truth is, what matters most is never the hand you're dealt, but how you play your cards. In the face of adversity, you can always choose not to be diminished by it, but to grow stronger because of it. Before we reach the next turning point in our exploration, may I ask a small favor? If these words have stirred hope or clarity within you, take a moment to tap the like button. And if you haven't joined our community yet, please consider subscribing. By supporting this channel, you help share the silent strength of Stoic wisdom with more people searching for meaning, growth, and practical hope. Let's shape a private sanctuary of resilience together. Now, reflect on your last emotional upheaval, the sharp word, the bad day, the unsettling news. Was your loss of control inevitable, or was it a moment surrendered by choice? In the next section, we'll uncover the roots of self-mastery and how transforming your private responses can change the trajectory of your entire life. As you reflect on these silent battles and private triumphs, consider which moment today will you choose to meet with calm instead of habit. Stay with us. There's more ground ahead on this journey inward. 5. Losing control is a choice. The modern world seems designed to test your composure. There are the daily frictions, traffic jams, a curt email, unexpected bills, or the silent sting of being overlooked. It's easy to assume these frustrations arise solely because of circumstances beyond your power. But on reflection, the Stoic perspective reveals a counterintuitive truth. No external event, however irritating or unjust, forces you to lose control. You, and only you, hold the final say on your response. Consider a familiar scene at the supermarket. You wait your turn at the checkout counter, quietly ticking through your mental to-do list. The line crawls forward. Suddenly, a stranger slips brazenly ahead of you as if you're invisible. There's a split-second private eruption inside. Your heart rate jumps, your jaw goes tight. The urge to correct this injustice pulses through you. Yet, as the teachings of Epictetus remind us, your real power lies not in external victory, but in the private space between stimulus and response. Remember, it is not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed, he warned. You must believe that you are being harmed. The silent choice is yours. Feed the anger, or maintain your own equilibrium. It's revealing to observe those rare individuals who seem unflappable mentor, who absorbs withering criticism and simply nods, or a parent whose voice never wavers even as tempers flare around the dinner table. These people are not emotionless. They, too, experience anger and disappointment. What separates them from most is their understanding that giving up control isn't a foregone conclusion, but a private decision they choose not to make. There is a lesson in the parable of the old man on a rush-hour train. A young commuter steps sharply on his foot, apologizing with embarrassment. The old man looks up from his book, nods, then resumes, reading his Serenity undisturbed. Another passenger, indignant on his behalf, asks why he isn't reacting with anger. The old man replies, "He didn't do it on purpose, and my anger would do nothing to ease my foot. Instead, it would be a silent burden on my mind." In this quiet exchange, we glimpse the heart of Stoic discipline emotion as a private response, never an unavoidable fate. The difference in response to life's slights rests in interpretation. Where one person sees the line cutter as an affront to dignity and grows furious, another sees the same act as a test of patience or perhaps a reflection of the other's own silent struggles. Criticism can be viewed either as an attack or as a private invitation to improve. The meaning you ascribe determines the emotion you feel. How does one train the mind not to lose control? First, cultivate a habit of pausing. When emotion rises, give yourself the private space to ask, will my reaction improve this outcome, or will it simply escalate my discomfort? Often, silence proves more powerful than 100 words spoken in haste. Second, retrain your thinking. Remind yourself daily that you control your thoughts, even when you cannot control events. This does not mean silent acceptance of every injustice. Rather, it means responding wisely, choosing dignity over reactivity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." True power is not swinging outward, but found in the silent mastery within. When storms swirl around you, your greatest achievement is not to still the chaos, but to maintain your private clarity amid confusion. Losing control is a choice zone you need not make. In the end, your freedom lies in the private command of your own mind. Master this, and the world can do nothing to shake you from your course. 6. Don't get stuck in the past or the future. In the silent corridors of the mind, regret and worry are constant companions. Their voices are private, often unheard by those around us, but their grip can be powerful. You might find yourself revisiting a career move that never panned out, replaying the words you wish you hadn't said to a loved one, or looking ahead in apprehension to layoffs, health anxieties, or that uncertain conversation waiting on the calendar. Too many people let their lives slip by in this liminal space, haunted by a history they cannot rewrite or paralyzed by a future they can't control. But the Stoics teach a clear antidote to this endless, exhausting cycle: the art of presence. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher on the Roman throne, wrestled with these universal doubts and still wrote, "Remember that man lives only in the present, in this fleeting instant. All the rest of his life is either past and gone, or not yet revealed." This isn't ivory tower philosophy. It's a lived practice, a stern reminder that every second squandered on yesterday's pain or tomorrow's anxiety is a moment surrendered, never to return. When you dwell in the past, regret and rumination become your jailers. No matter how many times you replay the silent scene, the outcome will never change. When your mind leaps into the future, inventing disaster or disappointment, stress tightens its grip long before a real problem ever arrives. Lost in either direction, you relinquish the one form of control that is always yours: mastery over the present. Mindfulness is not an escape into abstraction. It is gritty and practical, a decision to return to the now. You don't need a mountain retreat or a silent meditation cushion. The real work is done in grocery store aisles, crowded offices, or late at night when your thoughts swirl. It might be as simple as a measured breath or a brief check-in with your surroundings. Each time your mind races to the past or gallops into the future, bring it back again and again to what is happening in this private, present moment. Consider the career of Novak Djokovic, one of tennis's modern legends. Early in his journey, he was plagued by memories of losses and a constant preoccupation with what tomorrow's match might bring. His silent struggle on the court was not always visible to fans, but it was real and, at times, crippling. Everything changed when he decided to anchor himself in each point. He stopped carrying the weight of past mistakes. He stopped performing private auditions for future glory or failure. By learning to focus truly, fully, and only on the ball in play, Djokovic unlocked both peak performance and profound resilience. Every point became a fresh start, a space for calm action, free from regret or anxiety. In the crucible of global competition, this lesson turned his mental fragility into unshakable strength. The same principle applies. No matter your circumstance, past heartaches, mistakes at work, missed opportunities, these are silent ghosts unless you choose to relive them. Anxiety about aging, finances, or relationships are only possibilities, not facts. What matters is what you do right now, how you listen, how you respond, how you invest your silent attention. When you keep your awareness anchored in the present, you recover lost energy and discover clarity. You see the small joys of today's child's laughter, the taste of hot coffee, the satisfaction of a job tackled with purpose. You make better decisions because you have the full use of your resources, undiluted by regret or worry. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Holocaust and renowned psychiatrist, wrote, "What is to give light must endure burning. You grow brighter when you focus on the living moment. Reflect on your own routines. How often do old injuries or future fears color your present? Share your experience in the comments. When you speak your silent truths, others realize they are not alone, another step toward collective resilience and private liberation from the tyranny of time." 7. Life is chaotic, but calmness lies within you. Life never announces when it will upend your plans. You may rise with optimism, your day mapped out with routines and private hopes. Yet, in an instant, the script changes. A message flashes across your phone bearing bad news. A colleague hurls sharp words in a meeting. A family emergency draws you away from everything familiar. In a world defined by unpredictability, chaos is not the exception, but the rule. Yet, no matter how turbulent the external world becomes, there remains a sanctuary always within reach, your own mind. Amid upheaval, true strength is revealed not by how you control circumstances, but by how you command your reactions. Stillness in the middle of commotion is not natural, it is earned through practice and intent. In fact, the calmest person in a crisis is often the one who possesses the greatest power over themselves, and thus over the direction their life takes. Picture yourself navigating dense morning traffic. Suddenly, another driver recklessly swerves into your lane, forcing your foot hard onto the brakes. The jolt awakens a familiar surge of irritation. The urge to blare your horn, offer a harsh word, or shoot the driver a glare rises swiftly. In that moment, the decision before you is a private one. Submit to the reflex of anger, or exercise the inner discipline to let it pass. If you choose anger, your heart pounds for the next several miles, your mind rehearses grievances, and your day starts under a cloud. If you choose calm, you offer yourself the gift of peace, a conscious detour away from unnecessary stress. This choice repeats throughout daily life. Perhaps a project at work is abruptly cancelled, undermining weeks of silent dedication. A friend tells you something you wish you'd never heard. Or, in the warmth of home, a family member's careless comment lands sharper than intended. In each case, instinct bids you to react, to defend, to match volume for volume, to assert your wounded pride. Yet, every time you master the silent pause, you rise above the immediate fray. Stoicism teaches, your reaction is your power. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, wrote Marcus Aurelius. When you keep your cool amidst disorder, you don't merely avoid worse outcomes, you reclaim your sovereignty. Those who try to provoke through anger or anxiety seek to pull you into their spiral. By remaining steady, you set a boundary. Their tempest cannot reach your private shores. Let's take the family argumenta, subtle but potent training ground. Voices escalate, old resentments resurface, and the temptation to interject, to correct, feels irresistible. Yet, by allowing yourself a silent moment, breathing before you respond, or even choosing not to respond, something shifts. Your calmness acts as a mirror, often making the other person aware of their own agitation. Without anyone to spar with, their anger loses momentum. Sometimes, the greatest rebuttal is your refusal to be provoked. This is not passivity or disengagement. It is self-regulation, a conscious choice to act deliberately rather than react impulsively. There is wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the talking. True victory in life is not about winning confrontations, but about mastering yourself within them. The one who controls their reaction retains their dignity, their clarity, and often their relationships. When storms arrive, as they will, you have a choice. Become a victim of the chaos, or stand firm in the silent center of your own strength. The world outside can rage, but your response is always your own. In that pause, in that private stillness, you discover not just composure, but the deepest kind of power. 8. Don't let circumstances define you. Life delivers each of us into a unique current. Some arrive on quiet waters, others in storms of adversity from their very first breath. The world often looks at the circumstances of our birth or the setbacks we endure and silently draws conclusions, labeling, defining, and sometimes confining us without our consent. Society whispers its judgments, and sometimes those outside voices become private doubts within our own minds. Consider a child born into poverty. The apartment is small, the refrigerator rarely full, and the street outside is colder than it used to be. Teachers at school offer kindness, but their eyes are laced with pity, quietly wondering if this boy will ever escape what he's inherited. His classmates' parents speak in hushed tones. That boy has tough circumstances. What chance does he really have? At first, he listens. He feels those limits settle on his shoulders, a silent burden he can neither name nor shake off. But then, something shifts. Perhaps it is a passing word from a mentor, a book that opens his mind, or a moment of quiet reflection at the end of a long week. He sees for the first time that the world's assessment of him is not a sentence, only a starting point. His circumstances are not his identity, they are merely a backdrop, changeable and ultimately powerless unless he consents to their authority. The decision to remain defined by circumstance, or to rewrite the story through action and attitude, is his and his alone. In Stoicism, this realization is foundational. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, taught Epictetus. These are not empty words, but a call to private courage. All around us, in American cities and small towns, are people who rise from disadvantage, trauma, or loss, not through denial of hardship, but through an unwavering response to it. The mother who works night shifts to return to school, the immigrant learning a new language after dark, the veteran rebuilding after injury are defined by what life dealt them. Their silent victories unfold through countless daily choices to respond with dignity and resolve. In moments of adversity, the fork in the road is always there. Passively accept the label the world gives you, or quietly refuse it by taking action. When you let circumstances become your definition, you surrender authority over your own future. But when you stand in the face of difficulty and assert, "I will not be named by my hardship," you reassert your private sovereignty and unlock the freedom to shape your own path. Complaints, blame, or resignation may gain short-term sympathy, but they rarely move you forward. Instead, ask, what is within my control right now? What private effort can I make, no matter how small? Every act reading after a long day, reaching out for help, mastering a new skill declares, "I am not confined by my circumstances." For every person listening who feels boxed in by their job, background, or present struggle, know this: the judgments of others, no matter how loud or subtle, are only as real as your willingness to heed them. When someone tries to write your story for you through prejudice, discouragement, or their own silent expectations, respond not with argument, but by calmly taking your next step. True composure arises in these moments of private self-definition. It is an inner declaration, never dependent on public validation. Stoicism means standing firmly in yourself when the world applies pressure, knowing that strength is forged not in perfect circumstances, but in resilient responses. If you keep this at the heart of your practice, no temporary hardship can become your lasting identity. In every private moment amid the silent clamor of uncertainty, grief, renewal, and hope, Stoic wisdom remains, not as distant doctrine but as a compass quietly guiding us home to ourselves. "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior," wrote Confucius, echoing the inner battles only you can see and choose to win each day. Let your composure in difficulty become your true measure. Carry these principles beyond the screen, letting the world's noise settle so you can hear the soft, resilient voice within. As you face tomorrow's unknowns, remember that dignity is a daily discipline, your challenge, your invitation, your silent victory. Reflect well, act with quiet strength, and know you are part of a community walking the same path, together yet solitary, forging meaning with each mindful decision.